All right. Hello, everybody. It is 7 o'clock. We will get started in just a moment. Hope everybody is having a great Wednesday. Got to remember what day it is of the week. So I see we're having a few people trickle in. So while they do that, I'm just going to introduce myself. So first off, I'll introduce the topic we're going to be talking about. So the importance of fuel timing for athletes. That's what we're going to be talking about. Essentially, nutrient timing. So my name is Petra. I am a sports dietitian at Northwestern University through Levy Restaurants. So essentially what I do is I oversee our athlete dining facility, work with the chefs, do the education, and I also oversee men's and women's soccer and women's basketball. I've had a lot of experience at various different areas. I was a performance dietitian volunteer at TCU, where I got my undergrad and my master's for 6 years. I have my own private practice, Petra's Eats RD. I interned with the Green Bay Packers, the USOPC. And so, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Okay, so what are we going to learn today? So the importance of fuel and its food timing, fueling up before exercise, during exercise, after exercise. So I like to kind of like sum that up as pre-fuel, mid-fuel, and post-fuel. And then things to try. So what is the importance of fuel timing? So the body uses nutrients from foods at specific times to optimize your training, your athletic performance, and the adaptation of whatever your body is doing at that moment. So it also is important to have enough energy for a good training session. I like to kind of explain it like, you're going into a training session, and if you don't have any fuel with you, how good is that training session going to be? You're only going to get as good as your training is. And if you're going into your training fasted or not with enough energy, you're not going to be able to make as much progress as you would if you had some fuel and could give that extra push, have that extra rep. Another thing is, preventing GI distress, gastrointestinal, and improving your recovery afterwards. And then also spacing out meals allows you to get enough of those nutrients and calories throughout the day that you need. So the type of fuel slash food you choose to eat is just as important as when you eat it to optimize training, athletic performance, recovery, and adaptations. So fueling up before exercise. So carbohydrates. We like to prioritize a variety of high quality plant-based whole grain carbs when possible. But also take note that, yes, we want whole grains, but again, it comes to the timing. We don't necessarily want whole grains pre-exercise, unless maybe it's a couple hours before. Reason being is we need the right before exercise grains to get into our system as quick as possible. So I think when we're talking about carbs here, it's kind of like that pregame meal. So 3 to 4 hours before you're having a game or like a heavy training, you want obviously to have carbs because they're the body's primary fuel source, as they provide energy for the working muscles and brain that help prevent mental and physical fatigue. They help maintain blood sugar levels, glycogen storage in muscles, that being basically whatever fuel you can get and store for later. I also like to think of like a chipmunk when he goes and he gets all his then the nuts and he saves them up in his cheeks for later. It's the same type of thing, but we put it by our muscles. And then utilizing that fuel when we need it. It aids in muscle recovery by replenishing and repairing tissues after the fact. And then, the quality carbs contain fiber, vitamins, minerals, and even trace amounts of protein. So pre-workout, pre-competition fuel. This goes for, like I said, right before exercise or 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours before. You want those carbs that are going to be easy on the stomach, simple carbs that are going to be absorbed quickly and aren't going to be really messing with anything else. They're going to get to where they need to be. That includes fruits, small amount of vegetables, likely ones that have a little bit less fiber, and like carrots, corn, those things, just because you don't want too much fiber, because that can make you go to the bathroom during your training or event, or it can also slow down the absorption of the fuel that you need right away. Beans, I would even say, is a iffy one, because of, yes, the fiber and the gaseous things. So I say vegetables and beans would be very iffy on this list, but I would go towards, your fruits, your potatoes, sweet or regular, granola, like a cereal, white bread, white pasta, white rice, low-fat yogurt, smoothies, shakes, the things that are like smoothies and shakes that are already broken up. They're easier to digest because they're, when you make smoothie, you blend it up. That's basically what your system does with fruit and yogurt and whatever is in that smoothie. So that's that. So pre-workout competition meals and snacks. So like I was saying, you want a larger balanced meal around 2 to 4 hours prior to the activity to allow for adequate digestion. And then you want to consume smaller, easier digested. And when I say easier digested, it's like you want the simple carbs, white bread, cereals, fruits, dried fruits, applesauce 1 hour before activity. And then prioritize carbohydrate-rich foods that are nutrient dense and low. I don't know why that says sugar. Sorry, that must be a typo. You want it to have good amounts of sugar. I think low in sugar on this slide means like you don't want to be downing a soda or, having something doused with a sickly amount of sugar, because that could cause GI distress. And then fat, because that as well will cause GI discomfort. Sugar is fine. It's okay. I've even told my athletes to pop some candy before, if they like need a quick glucose. And then, like I said before, avoid eating too much fiber close to activity to prevent gastric distress. So timing of carb intake prior to activity. It's super important. So we want to reduce the carb content of your meals or snacks as you get closer to the start time. And again, that being, you're going to eat a big meal, then you're going to snack on smaller meals. Carbs are still the most important fuel as you get closer. So we want to consume ones that are readily digestible, like a banana and Gatorade, to optimize performance and prevent upset stomachs. So we kind of talked 3 to 4 hours before activity, consume. You want to consume about 3 to 4 grams of carbs for every kilogram of body weight. So like 1 gram. So 4 hours before, you want to do 4 grams per kilogram. 3 hours before, it's 3 grams per kilogram. And then 2 hours before your activity, consume about 2 grams, and then 1 hour, 1 gram, kind of 4, 3, 2, 1. So, an example kind of like this to try is carbohydrates. 1 serving equals 15 grams of carbs. So 15 grams of carbs might look like an orange, 15 grapes, a small sweet potato, 6 saltine crackers, a half a banana, a quarter cup of granola. So that might also be, a half a cup of pasta, a piece of bread, a half a bagel. That's 15 grams. And then foods with more carb fuel, and this being because they're a little bit more condensed, like, for example, raisins. They're basically grapes that are dehydrated, so it's more concentrated. So a smaller, like a 2.5 ounce of box raisins would really be like 35 grapes when you think of it. But instead of having the excess water that's going to fill you up quicker, it takes that away. So you can eat more and get more of that quick fuel, that carbs. So a small 2.5 ounce box of raisins would have 34 grams of carbs. Dried mango, kind of the same idea. Pretzels, that's a great source. A large baked potato, granola bar, you kind of see how those go. Some things that you don't necessarily want to do. 4 ounces bagged Takis hot chips. Yeah, you don't really want that. It has some fat and I mean, it's spicy. King size Snickers bar. Yes, it has some carbs, but it's got too much fat. Has a little bit too much sugar, honestly, because it's not even just the sugar, it's the combination of the sugar with the fat and the nuts and seeds, because it slows down the digestion and makes your stomach upset and you not get the energy quick enough. Same with the sausage McMuffins with egg. And then the gummy worms, I'll be honest, like I said before, sometimes gummy worms are fine. Not all the time, not every time, but let's say, you've seen those like Gatorade chews. They're essentially the same thing. They're sugar, they're quick sources. You don't want to eat just gummy worms for your pregame meal or your pre-fuel, but like, let's say you need a quick zap of energy. Sugar is what you're gotta do. So that's a iffy one for me. Fueling up before exercise, protein. So although the emphasis on carbs is what's needed to maximize your energy, including a little bit of protein is important, especially in that 3 to 4 hours prior that one meal. That's because it aids in muscle building and repair, assists with recovery towards the end, provides the body with tissue building blocks, prevents muscle breakdown. It supports your immune system function, regulates energy levels by slowing the carb absorption a little bit to allow it to be more sustainable and at a consistent rate over time. Keeps you feeling full and satisfied. These items that we would suggest would be something like lean meats, eggs, non or low fat dairy, and then plant proteins like soy protein. And then avoid proteins with excessive amounts of unhealthy fat, because that'll, again, upset your stomach, increase inflammation, and not make you feel too great on the field. So for protein, when it comes to numbers, you want to aim to include about 0.15 to 0.25 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight in meals. So the math kind of shows it down there, but if you have a sports dietitian, they can do that for you and kind of explain it. But essentially, this athlete is 155 pounds. So we converted it to kilograms, multiplied it by 0.15 and then 0.25 to get that range. And essentially, you want 10.5 to 17.61 grams of protein in the meal. So you want to increase your protein intake in meals 3 to 4 hours before. So that would be like the 0.25 grams per kilogram. And then you want to decrease protein intake 1 to 2 hours before. So that'll be around the 0.15. And then protein should be more readily digestible as you get closer to activity. So just for examples, 1 serving of protein is about 3 to 5 ounces of lean meat, poultry, fish, or seafood, which you can kind of look at the size of your palm. And that's a good kind of estimate. Also, if you look at the width of it, with height, I might be saying the wrong word, but or thickness of your hand, that's about how thick that piece should be. And then 2 egg whites or 1 large egg, eat the whole egg. You need the vitamin D, you need the vitamin A, unless it's really, really close to training. But again, that's why it's really nice to have an RD, because it's situational, dependent on everybody's different needs. 3/4 to a cup of dairy, so milk, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. Again, I would not suggest doing beans, but potentially a little bit of grains that have more protein in it. And then 2 to 3 tablespoons of nut butter, again, maybe in that 3 to 4 hours before, versus a 1 to 2 because it's higher in fat. And same with the nuts and seeds. All right, so this is kind of like a really cool way to remember your serving sizes. We like to use this in many different practices just to help remind you. So just just so you can remember like a protein serving size. As you can see, the beans and grains is about a 1/2 cup. What does that look like? About your fist size. Meat and fish, we kind of talked about it. Around 3 to 4 ounces is about the palm. Nut butters, 2 tablespoons. And basically that should be enough to cover 1 slice of bread. Yogurt serving size is 1 cup. So the whole fist. And then serving size of walnuts would be like 7 walnuts, 23 almonds, 49 pistachios, 85 pumpkin seeds or pepitas. So just giving you an idea. Okay, so fueling up before exercise, fat. So you want to avoid foods that have too much fat content in your pre-activity meals and snacks. It's energy dense, but it's slow to digest. And it may cause digestive distress, sluggishness, can negatively impact performance, not only because your stomach hurts, but can also cause inflammation. So you may have heard about the different types of fats, unhealthy fats and healthy fats. So the unhealthy ones are ones that we like to limit. So saturated fat, animal fat, that be anything coming from beef, pork, chicken. That does not mean that you can't have like chicken or beef before, like in your 3-4 hour before meal. Just look for a leaner cut. So like a sirloin or a pork tenderloin or a chicken breast. Typically some other cuts like pork butt has a lot of fat, or pork shoulder, or a chicken thigh. That's going to have more fat, and it's better to err on the side of having less fat in that pregame meal. Trans fat. These are things that we actually like. Most items don't even have it anymore. It used to be kind of like a thing in the 90s, I think, that they were very present in processed packaged foods like chips, pastries, fried foods, butter. They've gotten much better at getting rid of that in everyday products, but you still want to like make sure that if you have any, it's very minimal. Again, it comes into balance. Can you never have a pastry again? Heck no. I want you to have a pastry. Trust me. Can you not have butter? No, you put butter on your baked potato. That's normal. But most of those items aren't going to add up to amounts where are dangerous for you. So like I was saying, these unhealthy fats might contribute to poor health by increasing bad LDL cholesterol, that's bad cholesterol, whereas HDL is the good cholesterol, which it'll increase the levels in the blood, increase risk for cardiovascular disease, diabetes, inflammation, cancer, and obesity. And then the healthy fats, those are the ones that are like plant-based fats and oils, fish, seafood. So those being like your nuts and seeds, or like your oils, like olive oil, sunflower oil, all of those things. They're not saturated, so you can kind of tell the difference between saturated and unsaturated fats, because saturated is saturated with stable bonds that make it solid. So saturated fat is solid, whereas healthy fat, unsaturated, is liquid. Oh, side note, that also is the same thing for like, there's trends out there, coconut oil is the best thing for you. It's a saturated fat. It's a solid at room temperature. And you got to be careful with the amounts. Not saying it's bad for you, but it doesn't have as many of the healthy fats as people think. So fueling up during exercise. So we are going to fuel during, because it'll maximize performance for prolonged activities and prevents fatigue. You essentially don't need to fuel with anything more than like water and potentially some Gatorade if it's not going longer than 60 minutes. An athlete, though, should consume simple carbs, so Gatorade, quick sugars, gummies, applesauce, containing around 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour. And then consuming 16 to 32 fluid ounces every hour during an event. It may need to be adjusted depending on heat, activity level, how much play you have, but again, all individualized. And then fueling up after exercise. So this is where, like, honestly, your body does the most work. So it helps muscles refuel and rebuild. It enhances recovery and prevents soreness. That's the purpose of post-fuel. It should be within 2 hours of the workout or event. There are more studies out there that might be a little longer than we initially thought, but still, like, it's always the sooner the better. If you can get something in right after within 30 minutes, great, because then your body can already get on top of it. On storing and making the nutrients go where it needs at that moment that your body needs it. Should aim to consume about 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight of carbs per hour for the first 5 hours following an exercise or event. And then aim to consume 20 to 30 grams of protein within 2 hours after the event. Things that should have around 3 to 1 carb protein ratio that you consume. And what that means is, like, if you look at some of those new Gatorade or Fairlife drinks or something, a lot of them are promoting, oh, I'm high in protein. But what they've done is they've increased the protein, but they've decreased the carbs. And people may think, and athletes may think, oh, this has more protein, it's better for my post fuel. When in reality, it doesn't have enough carbs to help refuel and store that extra protein. So always look at that. Like, the example I would give is if it has 30 grams of carbs and 10 grams of protein, that's perfect. But if it has, 40 grams of carbs and 30 grams of protein, that's not ideal. So here's a little case study we'll do as we're wrapping it up. So Carson is a male collegiate swimmer. He has his first collegiate swim meet tomorrow starting at 2 p.m. His first race starts at 2:30 and his second race starts at 4. He notices he has no food in his college dorm to eat tonight and tomorrow before his event. What should he eat for the night before his meet? So I know we're running out of time, so I'm just gonna, unless you guys want to try to go in the chat, I'm not sure if everyone can go in the chat. Maybe if you want to try to go in the chat, but last time it wasn't working. But essentially what we want to go for is we don't have to carbo load unless it's going to be a really, really large, long endurance event, such as an ultra marathon or a marathon. But, having a half a plate of pasta with turkey bolognese meat sauce, a quarter plate of vegetables, orange juice, and I'm trying to think, like a piece of salmon or something. You're getting a good amount of carbs from the pasta, the sauce, tomato sauce, the orange juice, or whatever you have on the side. Plus, you're getting protein from the meat, the little meat in the meat sauce, and then also chicken or whatever you have as the protein. Then a little bit of carbs and antioxidants from the vegetable. So that's something that I would look towards leading up to his swim meet. So if you think about it, if he has a meet that starts at 2 and his first race starts at 2:30, we want him to eat around 11. Yeah, around 11, maybe 10:30, 11. So that could look like, depending if he wants to do like a brunch or if he got up early like he should and already had breakfast, hopefully he'll just have an early lunch and just, maybe have, I don't know, a rice bowl with chicken, some vegetables, like I said, white rice, teriyaki sauce, some fruit on the side, and a Gatorade. And then like an hour before, let's say he has an energy bar, granola bar, and an apple. And then maybe 15 minutes before, he's going to have some mandarin oranges or something quick. In between races, he should definitely be fueling. And what that looks like is, again, a quick carb. So maybe some pretzels and fruit snacks, or even throwing a little bit of protein in there, maybe a cheese stick. Because if, his first race is at 2:30, he probably, let's say it takes 30 minutes. I don't know how long exactly a swim race meet would last by the time he gets and eats again. He'll have about an hour. So like just something minimal fat or minimal protein, high carb. And then what should he eat following his final race? Definitely, a good meat piece of protein with maybe a baked potato, some vegetables, some fruit, a smoothie, some chocolate milk, and a roll or something like that. So heavy carbs, adequate protein, and antioxidants to help inflammation. Whew, case study 2, and we're running out of time. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so Sandra and Molly are on the same, just hang with me, guys. We'll get through this. Are on the same high school soccer team. They have a soccer game at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Sandra has a McDonald's big breakfast with hot cakes with a chocolate milk before a game, and Molly has a whole wheat bagel with 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, half a cup of strawberries, and water. Who do you think will perform better and won't fatigue as fast? It's obvious, Molly, because it's not going to be super heavy in fat, and she has protein in hers and Molly's, and some antioxidants and fluids. The ways that they can each improve their meals before. So, maybe she has hot cakes and chocolate milk. Maybe she gets some sausages. She needs some protein. maybe some oatmeal. I mean, sometimes for people, McDonald's is all you can do, and what you got to do is you got to do, as long as she's eating. Molly, I would almost say, have a plain bagel instead of a whole wheat bagel. Maybe add some jam with the peanut butter to add some quick carbs. And then maybe instead of the water, do a Gatorade. Again, you want to have the extra carbs. And then what are some ways they can recover after their game? They want to get some anti-inflammatory foods in, so fruits and vegetables, a good source of protein, and an adequate amount of carbs. So, facts. Does nutrient timing matter? Yes. Do you recommend any snacks at night before a game? I would always say something that you've done before, nothing unfamiliar. You want something that's going to be a good amount of protein, good amount of carbs, maybe some apples and peanut butter, or hummus and pita, What are the benefits of macronutrient timing? Decreased GI distress, increased energy, organization, no uncertainty on game day. Does it really matter if you drink a protein shake within the 30-minute period after a workout? Like I said, 30 minutes, it's not a big deal, but you want to get it in as soon as you can. Otherwise, I'd say highly suggest up to 2, like nothing more than 2 hours, because the absorption starts to slow down. Can I replace a protein shake with a meal after a workout? Absolutely. We would prefer a workout or a full meal than over just a protein shake. And what do you recommend for people who don't usually eat breakfast? Get something in. I know it's not always ideal. So even if it's not the most elaborate healthy breakfast, I'm happy if you get a banana and a Gatorade, especially for those 6 a.m.s. No, that's not enough, but it's better than nothing. Maybe prep the night before. Have a granola bar. Have overnight oats that you made the night before and bring it along. Have a smoothie pre-made. Those are all a little bit higher level type things, but just have something quick carbs. You don't have to wake up 2 hours before if you have a 6 a.m. training, because I wouldn't do that either. All right, so scan the QR code if you want to have time to fuel and get some more information. And then we love to end on a quote: if you fail to prepare, you're prepared to fail. Mark Spitz. Just reminding you about the My Nutrition Plan, one-on-one sports nutrition coaching. Again, it's so individualized, like I said, throughout the entire presentation. Get some help. You're not supposed to know how to do this alone. I've been learning this stuff for over 6 years, and I'm still learning. So it's not easy. And here are the references. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, I know that we're over, but I would still love to answer you. If you don't have anything else, you can always look me up on LinkedIn, on Instagram at PatriotsEatsRD, and reach out. I'm always here to help. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening, and see you next time.